Good morning, everybody. Happy cold Thursday to you today. My name is Tim Harris. It's 10 o'clock. It's time for 10 with Tim. It is cold today. Thursday's my long run day. I ran 8 miles this morning. I've run 8 miles already this winter when it was 8 degrees and it wasn't as cold as it was today. I don't know what it was. That north wind. I think part of the thing is I went out and back, so I went out 4 miles with the wind at my back, and then when I turned back around, the wind was in my face, and it was just anyway. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to start complaining. It's the first time I've talked today, really, so that's just what came out. But anyway, thanks for being with me. Let's read the book of Leviticus together. If Leviticus is a struggle for you, I got good news for you. We finished Leviticus in less than a week, so we just got a few more days left. So just stay with me, stay in it, finish it, read it, and we'll talk about it. What is here today in chapters 19 and 20, I think is pretty interesting. We're now down to just the holiness code. In other words, trying to help the regular people. It's less instructions for priests now, and just more, hey, this is how you respect God's holiness in everything that you do. And if anything else, if you get overwhelmed with the details of these laws, just let it sink in that all aspects of human life are subject to God's law, and I don't think that's changed. Now, yes, we're saved by grace, and Jesus frees us from the law and all of that, but as I read these passages with you today, I'm just struck by the fact that, gosh, every time you turn around, you're having to consider God. And and again, I love my salvation by grace, and I thank God I don't have to live by the law to please Him. But at the same time, how many of us as Christians go through a whole day and don't even think about God? Like he barely crosses our mind. We make ourselves pray when mealtime comes around, that sort of thing. But do you know what I'm saying? When you literally have to consider, what God has said about every breath you take, every move you make, I think it changes your awareness of His presence, your respect for His holiness, and again, I think we're missing something. And maybe we have, in some ways, diluted the potency of grace by ignoring the holiness of God, and how the holiness of God bears upon our everyday life if we actually claim to be indwelt by His Holy Spirit and again, living in the presence and in alignment with the will of this God of utter perfect holiness. That's my soapbox today. Chapter 19 just seems like reading a phone book of laws, one law after another. I think once I realized that I am the Lord your God, sort of marks the ends of paragraphs. I was able kind of to organize a little bit. I count 16 paragraphs in kind of three sections: religious duties, good neighborliness, and then miscellaneous duties. And each of those sections have, each of those paragraphs has sections. I meant to say, so like 4 sections in paragraph 1, 4 sections in paragraph 2. Then the miscellaneous has like eight sections. But at any rate, I noticed that all of these sections are unified kind of by the idea of love your neighbor as yourself, which is I was struck by that occurrence in this chapter. But also, all 10 commandments are either directly quoted or expanded upon. So all 10 commandments, love your neighbor, kind of the unifying theme of this particular chapter. I'm also struck by just holiness itself and how holiness is expressed in everyday life. Mostly, according to the law here, it has to do with orderliness. It has to do with avoiding confusion, moral integrity, physical wholeness, and with that, since it's about wholeness, you avoid mixture. So you're not supposed to wear clothes with 2 different kinds of fabric woven together. Well, I think this jacket is, 20% elastane or something, but whatever. It was that idea that things should be pure, so don't be mixing stuff, haphazardly. respect the wholeness of what things are. Avoid disfigurement, so piercing, tattoos, that sort of thing. You wanted things to be what they are, and you wanted them in their appearance to be obvious what they are. So it's just that orderliness and avoiding confusion. I'm struck by how holiness begins at home. These admonitions that start from the start with respect for mother and father. Sabbath, which of course is something that would be observed at home. I just think that's really interesting. I'm also kind of struck by verse 32, chapter 19, verse 32, which just simply says, "Stand up in the presence of the elderly and show respect for the aged. Fear your God, I am the Lord." Yeah. I guess that strikes because I turned 60 in a couple of weeks. I think one of the hardest things in the world to fathom is that you yourself are growing old, that I myself am growing old. It's just impossible. So when it says stand up in the presence of the elderly, part of me thinks, I probably need to be a little nicer to the old folks, and not realizing, I am an old folk now, I think that's interesting, how none of us actually thinks we're old. There's probably something human about that. So let me first say, I think this verse applies all the way across the board. That just simply means no matter how old you are, you should be showing special respect and honor for those older than you. So you can't get off where you say like, hey, I'm still young. Don't call me sir. Don't be calling me ma'am. Don't call me Miss Harris. That was my mother-in-law. Don't be doing that kind of mess, where you refuse the respect that younger people are trying to show you. But then also you're like, you don't respect older people because in that sense, you think they're your peers. You went to high school with, you know what I mean? It's like, you don't respect older people because you graduated high school with them, but then you don't want respect because you don't want to be old. And that just means you don't respect anybody. You don't respect anybody, So no matter how old you are, I think you show respect to those older than you. And I actually think that I should receive and in some ways simply accept the respect that younger people show you. You should receive it because it's not, and you should show it because God commands it. It doesn't like stand up in the presence of the elderly who seem to deserve respect. No, God says because they're older, they deserve respect. So it doesn't matter. She's just a hateful old woman, hold the door open for her, call her Miss So-and-so, and show her great respect because God says, this is the way God wants society ordered. And he wants it ordered in such a way where older people get respect and a certain kind of deference. And again, last thing I guess I would say about that is in our day and age, as older people, and I'll speak first person as an older person, I find myself often not wanting to be respected as much as to be liked. We want our kids to like us more than we want them to respect us. We want our school teachers, they want to be liked more than they want to be respected. My school teachers didn't care if we liked them or not, but they demanded respect, and I respected them and I honored them. You know what I'm saying? Now school teachers, you call them by the first name. My goodness, Miss Bull, I don't even know that she had a first name. I never saw her smile. She's the meanest... But my goodness, I respected her. She was amazing. You know what I'm saying? It's just such a different day where adults want to be liked more than they want to be respected. And the Bible don't say nothing about liking them. It just says respect them. To be respected in some ways is more important than to be liked. And to be worthy of respect is the most amazing thing of all. So in my life, especially in this season of life, I want to be worthy of that respect. Whether sometimes I still, when my barber offered me the senior adult discount, I wanted to punch him in the throat, But to be worthy of that respect, that's something different, and that's something I do want to strive for. Chapter 20 reinforces and in many ways repeats regulations from previous chapters because it goes into detail about the consequences. We're talking about punishments here for disobedience, which honestly we haven't talked a whole lot about in Leviticus. Basically, there are three kinds. The death penalty, which is, you get killed for a lot. Death penalty, cutting off, which I'm gonna have to do a little more research personally on cutting off. I'm not sure what that means. I think I know what it means, but then sometimes I don't know what it means. I think it means like, I thought it means like, push them out of the community, but then that was what they did for people with skin diseases. It sounds like cutting off was often the consequence for, excuse me, for religious and sexual offenses. So it wasn't, now some of those, religious, yes, some religious and sexual offenses were capital offenses. You could be put to death, but some of them also were simply that you'll be cut off. It sounds like cut off sometimes means that you'll be facing God's judgment. Some of those cutting off, sins were related to private, like sins that would be hard to police or hard to catch, but just know God's going to cut you off. God's going to cut you down, that sort of thing. So it sounds like divine judgment there. And then lastly, it's restitution, what you must repay in the case of crimes against your neighbors. Anyway, a lot of these also are sins against family life. I think it's interesting how important family life is to God and to holiness and to the law, and what important fences are built around the protection of family life. But anyway, that's chapters 19 and 20. I enjoyed them actually, and I encourage you to read those and just pay attention to the way in which, again, every aspect of life is subject to God's rule. And I think we could learn a little something from that. We'll pick up here tomorrow. Again, let's keep hitting it 2 chapters at a time. Chapter 21 and 22, Leviticus. Chapter 21 and 22, we're almost done with it, y'all. We're almost done with it. Take a deep breath, finish it with me, and we'll go to something new next week. I love you guys so much. Stay warm, stay in the Word, stay with me on 10 with Tim, and I'll see you in the morning, Lord willing, at 10 o'clock. Listen, have a great day.